All right. Raise your hand if you have ever in your entire life gotten a reading question wrong. Ever. Ever. That's right. Even Mr. Halter has. All of you have. You can put your hands down now. Every last one of you has gotten something wrong before. Because if you haven't gotten something wrong before, you don't need me as a teacher and you don't need to come to reading class. But we all need help. I need help. You all need help. We all need help. You guys know we've been working on the story Johnny Appleseed this week. And I'm going to ask you some questions about this. And I just want you to think about the answer. If you need to, look through your book. And I want you to think about how you're getting your answer. The whole goal of this is they can start developing higher level questions to ask each other and get that much deeper understanding of what the story is about. We do use quite a bit of literature circles in this room. I'll break them up into groups of 3 or 4. I usually have them ask questions to each other just to check each other's understanding. Right now, they're still very much on the surface level of it, and I feel like the more we use the QAR strategy, the better they'll get and the deeper thinkers they'll become. Okay, so table 1 here. I want you to answer for me, when was John Chapman born?
John Chapman was born on September 26, 1774.
September 26, 1774. How did you find that answer?
I was reading the book.
Yeah, it's just right there on the page, right? Pretty easy. Table 2. How many kids did John's father have Wilnesia?
His father had 12 children. 2 children at first, and then when he remarried, he had 10 more children.
Right. So in the beginning of the story, it talks about John and his younger brother. And then his father goes off to war and his mother dies. So John's father remarried. Then they have 10 more kids. 10 and 2 is 12. That's very good. Tables 3 and 4. Tell me about any hard time you've ever had in your life, Kimberly.
I had a hard time when my aunt passed away.
Yeah, a lot of us have a real hard time when people we love die. How did you come up with the answer to a hard time in your life?
I just remembered back when my aunt passed away, and that's how I got my answer.
Yeah, you didn't need that story for it, did you? Do you need Johnny Appleseed to know something hard in your life?
No, sir.
So you came up with that completely on your own. Well, Nesia, when you were looking for how many kids John's father had, was that information all together?
No.
No. It was spread out. You kind of had to search for it, didn't you? Find a piece over here and a piece over there and put it all together before you give me an answer, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas group 1, with theirs, I mean, all Sheena had to do was read one sentence for me. She read the sentence verbatim from the book, and they had their answer. Your answer was just right there. Group 5. Tell me about what you think the temperature and the weather was when John and his family started picking apples. Ooh, what is it, Brittany?
That Chapmans picked their apples in the fall, stored them in the cellar for winter.
All right, so when were they picking them? It really gives you only one word about when they picked them.
The fall.
The fall? Okay. What type of weather is that normally, Mitchell?
It's normally chilly.
Yeah, it's just now starting to get cold. How do we go from where the book says they picked their apples in the fall to what the weather was like? How do we go from fall to cold?
Because in the fall, it starts getting colder and colder.
Did you come up with that on your own?
Yes, sir.
But let's think about that question I asked table 5. What was the weather like when John and his family started picking the apples? So that was kind of a trick question from me, because you need a piece of the book. But then you guys had to think about what fall was, and therefore we could figure out that it was cold. Now, each question that I asked to each of those groups was a very different type of question. When we are answering questions in our tests, just about anything we read, you're really going to get the answer from one of 2 places. Group 1, Sheena, you answered that question for me. Where did you find that answer? In the book. And table 3 or 4, you guys answered questions about a hard time in your life. That answer definitely wasn't in the book. Where did that answer come from?
The question that we answered came from our head.
Came from your head. And with these two categories, we can break it down a little further into two groups. Table 1, once again, your question was, when was John born? And you said all you had to do to find that answer was just read. It was right there, wasn't it? We know, and that's what we're going to call the first type. First type of question is a right there question. Group 2, you guys didn't have that. Your answer wasn't right there, was it? What you guys had to do is you had to go through, you had to read quite a bit of stuff and take a piece from over here and a piece from over here and put it all together. We're going to call our second group think and search questions. Why? Because you have to search for the answers and you have to think about what the question is and put all that stuff together to get it. Now we're coming over to group 3 and 4. And I think Kimberly said it perfectly before. She talked about the answer coming from in your head. And finally, group 5. Did you have to use the book to find your answer?
Sort of.
There wasn't much in there. There was really one key word in there, and that key word was fall. And the rest of that information you had to come up with yourself. So we're going to call that author and you. You had to use part of the book and part of what you knew, which is exactly what you had to do with the author and you. If you think about the type of question that's being asked, then you're going to have a much easier time figuring out what the answer to it is, because you're going to know where to look. This is a strategy we've been working on a little bit throughout the week, and they're continuously getting better at it. I've been asking a lot of right there questions and a lot of on your own questions and getting them comfortable and confident answering those. And then I will gradually add in more and more think and search questions and author and you questions. And I try to let them answer those questions first, and then I have them go back and identify, you just answered that, but that didn't come straight from the book. And I try to reinforce how they're going about their thinking. It's been a fairly difficult process so far, and it's taken a lot of time, but I really think it's beneficial in the long run. I'm going to give you guys a challenge. I want you to come up with 2 on your own questions that go along with our Johnny Appleseed story, with 2 author and you questions. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to do this. What's an on your own question that relates in some way to Johnny Appleseed?
Have you ever grown an apple tree?
Have you ever grown an apple tree? Johnny planted hundreds of orchards, probably. He planted orchards all over the place. Okay, Brittany, did you come up with a think and search question?
Why did Johnny cut down a tree?
Why did he chop down those trees?
To clear the land for many more orchards.
To clear land for an orchard. And you had to look in a few different places to find that, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah. If you have to look in a few different places and put it together, it's a think and search. So we're about to wrap this up for today, but this is something you should always think about. Where am I going to find this answer? Is it in my head? Is it in the book? Am I going to have to go all over the place to piece bits of information together? So think about it when you're answering questions. Always remember to read the questions carefully, and we'll practice this a little more later. Okay?